Sunday, 8th of January, 2006. 9 years ago today, I finally heard that long-anticipated beat of those Eastern war drums echoing through the night, heralding chaos's reign. I can still vividly recall waking to the haunting melody of wind chimes as they blew in the wind with their mocking dance. The stench of burning flesh with a metallic taste of blood in the air, and the sharp whistling blade that came with their song. As I write this, I sit outside the taste, or what's left of it. It's the first time I've been here since Jeremy went down. The eternal rebel, the great father of the angels of anarchy, the Baron of Los Angeles. I'm not sure what to think of that. For a long time, he was my hero, and I idealized him, as I did the other fathers of the Free States. But then again, you know what they always say about meeting your heroes. The Anarchs rarely resembled the idealistic dreams that they proposed, even if you tried to step up to the front of the entirety of the Free States at a rant and encourage them to live up to the ideals that they sold us on, to come together in the sense of brotherhood that Salvador preached in the manifesto. They would tear you down, tear you apart, and scatter your ashes to the wind without a second thought or an ounce of compassion. The wolf's words held a bitter truth to them. They had been sold on a dream of self-fulfilling obsession, where the only whim that mattered was their own. It took me far too long to see it. But I'm getting off track. I think it's that this place holds more than its fair share of painful memories, and yet I find that I keep returning here, year after year. Occasionally I would find another kindred here, sometimes one like me, reminiscing. Or sometimes an anarch, trying to come and see the old places of fame. Or sometimes some misguided anarch that's trying to find some more anarchs and doesn't know where to start. Finding my way here has become second nature. I would come by so often. I took the Harbor Freeway heading on to 6th Street, and just as I started to get off of the freeway, heading into the dark heart of the city, passing by the huge convention center, I found myself in the seedy part of town. Homeless men and women were in every doorway, or just shuffling along in the dark. Trash and trash bags littered the sides of the street, overwhelmingly overflowing in the alleys. Vermin was aplenty, from stray cats and dogs to rodents scurrying about freely. Skid Row was, still is, a dark and filthy corner of Los Angeles, mainly made up of old factories, abandoned apartment buildings, and most of its midnight population consists of the homeless, the drug addicts, the people with no real place to go. The one or two people who live here or operate businesses here are very, very few and far in between. One of which being that old beastie boy. Even go by his gym still. Eventually, I stopped before the old abandoned warehouse, set back from the street, that used to serve as the taste of LA, the favorite haunt of every anarch. Open every night of the year from sundown just until before dawn. Or at least they used to be. The moment I rolled up to the spot, I killed the ignition, that nice little purr of the engine. That nice loud revving died down. Instead, I now have nothing but my Walkman keeping me company. Listening to, I can't remember the name of the song, but man, the lyrics hit hard right now. How does it go? I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known. Don't know where it goes, but it's home to me, and I walk alone. For a moment, I just leaned over the handlebars of my bike, arms crossed, in the lot in front of the warehouse. The place is dead, but I remembered when there were several cars parked out here, most being Firebirds, Harley motorcycles, or other muscle cars. Anyway, I'm gonna quit stalling out here and head inside. The sense of nostalgia I get when I come here never really seems to go away. The taste is the place where it all began. Yet now it's no more than some burnt out remains and blackened debris. Worse are the flickering memories that I play like a haunting melody in my mind. The echoes of cackling, the hollering, the howling laughter of the gangs dancing in the air like smoke from a distant fire. With cautious steps, I made my way into the burnt ruins and through the charred entrance. The place is a wreck. It's a large room with a scorched black bar running along the far side. Along the walls to the left, mounds of broken wood mark the spots where booths once were. And on the right is a small stage where I used to come in and see Kip and Aiden, killing it with the music. What's left of the tables is scattered wildly and upturned around the wooden, sawdust-covered floor, littered with shattered shards from broken plant pots that used to hang suspended from the ceiling in macrame holders. The walls were peeling back to show blackened scars, and the ceiling was half caving in to permit thin streaks of moonlight to illuminate the dark and desolate place. Instead of the loud, heavy metal that used to play over the stereo, the only sounds are the chilling wind as it whispers through the decrepit establishment, sweeping up the newspapers and the magazines that were torn and strewn across the floor, swinging the door on its one remaining rusted hinge, and causing the floorboards to creak and dust to billow like it was alive. The scene reminds me of one of those poems that I was talking to Mulaney about. There is ruin and decay in the house on the hill. They are all gone away. There is nothing more to say. The memory of that night remains etched in my mind, so vividly. The night the Cathians came into town, I was more prepared than most, and even I didn't expect something to that degree. I didn't expect all that. I had no idea what to expect. No one could have foreseen the extent of the devastation. That night, when I heard that cacophony of new Malkavian souls screaming in the cobweb, moving through what was now a somber graveyard of shattered glass and scorched wood, I made my way towards the bar. Broken bar stools lay scattered across the floor, and the counter bore the scars of the fire. Settling into an empty stool, the worn leather groaned beneath my weight. Now, as I sit at the counter, I can't help but stare at the cracked mirror across from me, behind the bar. In its fragments, I see that it shows me my soul in its splinters, so scattered. I remember the night that I had those Cathians try to go after my boy, and instead found my retainer. I remember having Eric ask me, "Do you ever feel like you just bring misery to everyone you know?" He has no idea. It just feels like misery and misfortune cling to me like a plague. I always end up losing the ones closest to me. Sometimes I wonder what use there is to this gift if I can't protect the ones I care about. Annabelle, Duval, Howell, Angelica, Blake, Alexis, Murray, Kip, Cougar, Matt, Aaron, Law, Aiden, Marco, Riptide, Bella, the names I will never forget. It's like what they say in that play that Brother hates. Death doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It takes, and it takes, and it takes, and we keep living anyway. We rise and we fall, we break, and we make our mistakes. What's the reason I'm still alive when so many I know have died? In the end, their blood soaks my hands, and that is the price that I paid. That was my sacrifice. This is what you get for having a dream. It always ends up the same way. Tears and disillusionment. Is it better to be erased from the cruel memories and feel nothing? No more pain. No more hopes dashed. I almost envy them. I think I had already spent all my tears. I spent years trying to make something, trying to prepare for something, trying to lay things out so carefully, plan things so finely, only to see everything around me being torn down. Everything I built was torn down in the chaos and destruction. The destruction I spent all my time trying to prevent. All for nothing. There's a conversation that I had with Salvador where he made a point, something along the lines of, "Your ideals are worth nothing if you do not hold to them when they are tried and tested against adversity. Well, he let us all down. I had so much hope for the Anarchs, and within a couple of years, that hope was holding on by a thread, hoping that with the coming of the Cathians, they might serve as a catalyst for change. They would pull out all the weeds among them and remove all the problematic and harmful elements so that the Free States might be made into something better. It was a last-ditch effort that deep down I knew wouldn't work. The Anarchs are too argumentative and standoffish to work together. They're too disorganized, and responsibility too foreign a concept. They're rotten to the core, but I was so stubborn that I deceived myself from what I believed. Only now have I drawn regret from the truth of 1,000 lies. Learning and discovering things from what's been leaves a bitter aftertaste. Hindsight must be a cruel joke, played on you when it's too late. What good is it? Yes, it educates you to the past and prevents those same mistakes from being made again if you are wise. But the damage is already done. It's torture in a way, to see how you had wasted so much of your time when you could have altered the course of your personal history so differently from the long, dark journey it was, suffering and causing so much misfortune. All the lies sold, or the mistakes made, or the things you overlooked, that you were blinded to. The suffering that should never have happened. And then looking back with the benefit of hindsight, being enlightened to how easily you could have changed the course of events and shaped a completely different reality. What is the point in looking back, knowing everything too late? I suppose it's better late than never. I suppose, in the end, there is a lot of truth to the words of Anne Frank. What is done cannot be undone, but at least one can keep it from happening again. But then I wonder, how much merit is there to the sentiment? History is filled with brilliant people who wanted to fix things and just made them worse. I read that Dostoevsky said that every man is responsible for everything he does and for everything that everyone else does. It's true in a certain sense. We do have an infinite responsibility, and we do have an infinite capacity to bear that responsibility. I took on the responsibility of Los Angeles, and held myself accountable for a lot of things that happened. Limiting the bloodshed and carnage was a large part of what drove me to either prevent what happened in my dreams or facilitate it becoming reality. I don't like life ending so soon. It erases any possibility for their lives to truly develop into their own unique story. As a writer, I believe that everyone is the hero of their own stories. And I wonder, what stories those that died would have had to tell. While Marco and Riptide didn't make it, I hoped Billy might see reason, as Orca and Shaman did. It would be a shame to see him fade into that good night. Though we may not have been bound by blood, he was every bit a friend and a brother. As for Maggie, the questioning orphan who proclaimed she was no killer, has been consumed by the fire of the rebel father's vision, taking bloom in her blood, becoming lost in zeal, burning those who stand against her. I'll be putting her out of her misery soon enough. Aiden was perhaps the most tragic loss. He was too good, noble of heart, a far better person than I am. He did not deserve that fate, which is precisely why it is so tragic. But in the end, as I told Brother, it is futile to rack your mind over the what-ifs. In the end, the fates will play their cruel hands, and we will be left to make of the cards we drew what we will. Perhaps one day I may even manage to delude myself. I realize I am a creature born and bred from chaos, for chaos. I need something wrong to correct. I need something broken to fix, something destroyed to rebuild. Without it, I'm not sure what to do with myself. Contentment doesn't suit me. How can I be content after all I've lost? I am still here 9 years on, not even worthy of their memory, left to wonder why. Why should I live when they didn't? I feel the presence of Malkav in my madness. I know the Dark Father exists. So then what of God? Is there a reason to any of this? A plan, a destiny, a fate? What of my dreams? My prophecies, my omens, my sight? A gift or a curse? Truth or mere fantasy? I can't tell anymore. Every time my mind lingers on the subject, I can feel the madness taking control, the haze creeping in from the corners of my vision. As I am dragged into the shadow and fog of my own mind, it's as though even my madness wants me to forget them, as though they never existed, they never had been, but I don't want to, or else their memory will truly be dead. Even now I can feel that dread feeling wash over me, and I fear I'll be completely lost to it one of these nights. I've come back to myself, and I'm still at the bar. Blood tears stain my cheeks, and there are no longer mere cracks in the mirror over the bar, but it has been utterly shattered. It appears I've written on the mirror, "Remember," with my blood tears, though I have no recollection of it. Wait, what's this? Oh, I'm certainly Fortune's fool. In fact, I rather fancy it's Shakespeare who said that it's always just when a fellow is feeling particularly braced with things in general that fate sneaks up behind him with a bit of lead piping. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams, and the stars never rise but I feel the bright eyes of the wolf watching me. I see his reflection. I will stop writing for now. Wiping the tears from my face, I turned my head enough to the side to see the wolf amongst the rubble, silently sitting there, and on what remained of the burnt-out counter, sprinkled with bits of broken glasses, his bright blue eyes that I have seen so often in my dreams, ever with that burning intensity behind them. The presence of the wolf, ever watchful, filled the air with a quiet stillness. There was almost this silent acknowledgement between us, a shared understanding of why we had both returned to this place. No words need be said. He knew my pain so deeply and so completely, as though it was his own, because he was just like me. The weapon we're most comfortable with is the pen and not the sword. And even when we were batting for different teams, we saw many things similarly, and agreed on many things. Neither of us wanted the city to be plunged into gang wars or reduced to ash. We both wanted to see the city survive and work towards that, even if we had different beliefs at the time. I recall I was determined not to break in that battle of convictions, to not surrender and show the strength of my beliefs, even if those beliefs were built on foundations of sand. If my perceptions were to be swayed by this man, it would be because I chose to listen. And if I chose to listen, it would be because there was a grain of truth to what he was saying. And what I strove for was to weed out the truth from the lies, to make sense of things in the midst of my insanity. And then, with what information I had, I would come to my own conclusions. I'd always been a prideful creature. It's why it took me so long to see the truth for what it was, rather than continuing to push forward without direction. And the truth was that the wolf was right. He'd always been right. Without looking at the wolf, I broke the silence that filled the room, repeating his own words from almost a decade ago. I yearned to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost. And by the time I looked down, there is no longer any ground beneath my feet. And then I asked, how do you stop yourself from falling? His piercing gaze met mine in the broken mirror as he answered,
We assign a moment or a memory to a decision to dignify the process as a timely result of rational or conscious thought. But decisions are made of needed feelings. They are more often a lump than a sum.
It was then that I finally looked at him squarely, with a slight smile, however hollow it may have been, as I said in acknowledgement, Thomas Harris, Hannibal. And as I looked away, I repeated those words in a murmur. we assign a memory. Before I finally said, when memories avail of exposure through which the fullness of tides is visible, I only see a dark and cold fog, as I'm cast adrift amidst the whispering sea, with shadows bearing sorrow's spawn. With a final glance to the wolf, I pushed myself up from the wooden bar stool, the floor groaning underfoot. Splintered wood, shattered glass, and bits of ceramic plant pods crunched beneath my boots as I made for the door. Despite everything, I can't say that I regret having joined the Anarchs. It was my experience with the rebels that opened my eyes to the truth. It is in the Anarchs where I discovered what I truly believe, because it's where I've been confronted with all of the harsh realities. I've been forced to make a choice. I lost my way, but I found myself. That might be my one guiding star in the night sky. I have been, and still am, a seeker. But I have ceased to question stars and books. I have begun to listen to the teachings of my blood whispering to me. I paused, the sound of a resounding crack under my heel drawing my attention downward. Among the debris of scorched wood, dust, and trash was one of the many checkered chessboards that used to be spread about the taste, now battered and blackened. From beside it, amidst a pile, something else caught my eye, and I stooped down to pull it from the wreckage. A rook. When I was still on the fence about which side I was on, it was with a rook that Aaron communicated to me without saying it aloud. This is who I am now. This is where my loyalties are. I won't be intimidated. I know where I stand. Well, now so do I. Among the fallen are those who would never have followed me to the tower. Those like Annabelle, who were too swept up in the lies of freedom the Anarchs championed to think any differently. I think it happens to everyone as they go through life. You find out who you are and what you want, and then you realize that people you've known forever don't see things the way you do. And so, you keep the memories, but find yourself moving on. Pocketing the piece, I took one last survey of the desolate scene, before turning my back on the taste to step out into the cool night air. I did not look back. May the Free States forever remain dead and buried.